What is 1 horsepower of damage in real life? When you eat a chip, and it hits the roof of your mouth sharp corner up. Op said 1 horsepower not 35 lol. Lamau like most of y'all have 35 horsepower to begin with. Depends on the RPG HP scale we're talking. Pokemon or D&D scale? Yeah, no one on Reddit has 35 horsepower, and if you do you're probably a 1 wisdom. Dropping your phone on your face. That's definitely at least 2 or 3. 1 horsepower plus confusion. Concussion. Static shock. What did Virgil do to you? He was feeling motivated. Ooh, multi-layered jokes referencing an old awesome cartoon show and then featuring Virgil from the Devil May Cry series are tight. Ironically, stepping on a D4. They said what's 1 horsepower not what leaves you with 1 horsepower lol. That would be stepping on Lego sir. Have you seen a D4? Saying bye to someone and walking the same way. No way, that's an entire debuff. Your morale is lowered for hours. Disadvantage on charisma saving throws until you complete a long rest. And the long rest doesn't count because you couldn't sleep, thinking about how awkward it was. Working on the engine of a car and bumping your head on the hood as you get up. I feel like this just happened to you, and you happen to stumble upon this question. Ironically, stumbling into a question is also 1 horsepower. If you have the perfect answer, then stumbling into the question could be plus 1 horsepower. A phone at full brightness in a dark room. That just applies the blind debuff. In a dark room, another debuff has just applied to you. D. Negates dark vision for 60 seconds. When you pull a pizza out of the oven and take a bite without waiting for it to cool down and burn the roof of your mouth. You lose 1 hit point from the pain, but you also lose 5 intelligence points because you should have known better and will probably do it again at some point like I always do. I always got confused by this. Do people actually burn the roof of their mouth? I burn my tongue much more. In fact, I don't think I have ever burned the roof of my mouth. You see, most people eat pizza with the topping side up. Ah, that's what I was doing wrong. Seriously, though. Once I bite something, I roll it around in my tongue. I don't think food actually touches the roof of my mouth. Or maybe it does. I've forgotten how to eat, apparently. Pricking your finger for a blood sugar test. 1 horsepower equals 1 drop of blood. I think this might be the closest to 1 horsepower of all the answers I have read so far here. Not really, at least not by D&D standards. A level 0 commoner, so us Reddit people, has 4 horsepower, so 1 horsepower damage means you're a quarter dead. That's a pretty serious injury by that metric. A 4 horsepower max is essentially the lowest in all of video games that has a number associated to it. 10 or much more likely 100 would be the more reasonable assumption. Nerd. Trying to open a tight lid till it hurts. I keep an old mouse pad for this. The rubber part acts as a grip and it takes less swearing too. Genius. Mouse pad gloves. When a server says enjoy your meal and you respond, thank you. You too. Emotional damage is still damage, right? That's more like a lingering status ailment that just deals damage over a set amount of time. Disadvantage on all charisma checks for the next 1d8 hours. Dropping something and failing multiple times to pick it up. Reaches down to pick it up. Misses. Tries again, misses. Tries again, misses. 1 mental damage. Holding a pen and then somehow it ends up across the room 5 feet away from you. Grabbing a hair clip, the one with the springs, and it snaps in the air, propelling it into the next universe. Brain freeze. I've had some life-altering brain freeze before. Press your tongue to the roof of your mouth next time. It's like magic. This works by warming the nerve that's affected and causes the sensation of brain freeze. Good to note that your tongue will likely also be cold, so keep it there as the blood flow to your tongue slowly raises up the temp. It's not always an instant fix. Paper cut. Bleeding damage, similar to poison 2 HP per second. Biting your tongue when you sneeze. New fear unlocked. Usually it just hurts and interrupts your sneeze, leaving you more pissed off than anything. You won't bite your tongue clean off, don't worry. Historically, it is the equivalent of being struck by a naval gun round. So, however much damage a moderate cannon on a battleship does. I'm missing some kind of reference here, I think? The first use of hit points as a mechanic was a board game called Ironclads. Makes sense, right? A battleship can only take so many hits before it sinks. Awesome, thank you so much for the explanation. I'm stuck with a D&D bias. People are mistaking temporary damage for semi-permanent damage. You don't need to rest for the night to get back the damage from a stubbed toe or bonked head. You step on a D4 and it pierces skin. However, remember, most of you are 0-level commoners, so 1 D4 could KO you. I am not a hero, so 1 horsepower of damage sends me a quarter of the way to my grave. 1 horsepower damage could be like getting shot in the shoulder by a gun. That seems like a bit more than 1 horsepower. I feel like a single cracked rib is more like 1 horsepower of damage. Maybe a broken finger, or mild concussion. People aren't focusing enough on the non-negligible progress toward death definition of HP. Sure, in an RPG game you bounce off of 1 horsepower damage no problem. But that's because in all but the most low magic settings the regeneration is amazing. 1 night's sleep on a bedroll does the work of 3 surgeries and 6 months in the hospital. Stubbing your toe. 3 horsepower. And 1 morale. More like 50. A hangnail. Hangnail is like 1 hit. Those dots, man. Bleeding while flossing. Nah, that's a chaos boon. Minus 30 horsepower for a week with 10 horsepower recovery every day. You continue until you have a bigger health than before. Love the Hades reference. When the cat treads on your bollocks. That's 1000 damage plus 500 crit. Walking on a piece of Lego. Bro, that's like critical damage. Fatality. Lego wins. Flawless victory. If we're talking about D&D, commoners usually have 4 horsepower, so it needs to be simming that. If it occurred 4 times in a row you'd die. I don't think stuff like stepping on a Lego or a stubbed toe would count. Maybe a good bump on the head, a punch from someone of average strength, a bite from an average-sized animal, like a dog, simming like that. Considering a beginner adventurer's punch is 1 D4 without strength bonus. These punches are effing deadly. A low-level barb could walk through a crowd 12 whooping a dozen commoners before the guard shows up. This is one of the many things I prefer about crunchy systems like GURPS as opposed to D&D. In GURPS your HP is based on your strength by default. Big muscle-bound folks can take more physical punishment than tiny nerds. The average person would have 10 horsepower. But you don't die as soon as you go below 10. That's just where SH starts to get life-threatening. From 0 to 10 health, you're making health rolls every second to stay conscious. For every multiple of 10, it's you're rolling those health rolls every second until stabilized or you're dead. If you ever reach 5x your HP you're instantly dead. 10x your HP represents enough damage to entirely destroy your body. GURPS also has damage locations. You can take a penalty to your attack chance in order to target an area of the body which takes more damage. If you're going to stab someone, stab them in the vitals instead of just randomly in the torso. The vitals is typically a 3 to hit, but will multiply the damage roll by 3. The skull, representing a smaller target than the full face, will give you a 7 to hit or 5 from behind, and in return you get x4 to damage. However, since the skull is made from bone, it has some resistance to damage that the vitals doesn't benefit from. So you subtract 2 from the damage before applying the multiplier. So if you're playing GURPS in a modern setting and shoot an average strength person with an AR-15, they have damage numbers for basically every weapon in real and imaginary. Will do 3d6 plus 2 or an average of 12. 5 damage. Shooting a person in the torso, but not hitting a vital organ would put them on the edge of consciousness. But if they are healthy or lucky, they may be able to stabilize themselves even. Put that same 223 round into the vitals and the average damage becomes 37. 5 damage, which puts the average human to 27. 5 horsepower. 2 shots like that and you're instantly dead. With just 1 you're rolling every second at 2 or you're dead. But this system also gives you so much more range when dealing with things like fist fights. An untrained average person will do 1d63 damage when punching. So half the time they punch someone they do no damage. Which is pretty realistic if you've seen videos of 2 average clueless people fighting. If you're scared you can start punching for vital areas. Give them that left hook to the kidneys or the haymaker to the skull if you've got strength or luck to get through the skull. Then the damage starts adding up. Hearing someone chew their food loudly. It hurts my soul. That's why it can go through armor. Trusting a fart. I'm holding one in right now. Just 2 more hours to go. Never trust. Update, did not trust. Made it home safely. Stay strong out there, guys. Starting to say hi to somebody but they say hecko so you end up saying hiao. 1 Speech craft. What are y'all starting to dislike the more and more older you get? Social media. It's just gotten worse and worse since I was in high school. The internet was cool before the corporations figured out how to better monetize and control it. Exactly. I'm 40 so I lived through the Wild West days of the internet, and I always wondered when they would get a hold of it. I miss the old days of the internet too. My very early days of internet use were the tail end of the Wild West and things were so much more fun and dumb and didn't have to have a point. The things that I find saddest to see the way they are is YouTube, and YouTubers in general, and just the sheer amount of adverts everywhere. Everything is an advert. Everything. So just the monetization of the internet I guess. People seem to be much happier in general pre-social media. We were still depressed but far less frantically so. The 5-day work week. Let's go further. The 40-hour work week. I'm not putting 10 hours into a day. Nobody I know actually gets more than 5 hours of work done anyway. Edit. For everyone saying I do way more work than that, I'm not excluding you. 40 hours a week is too effing much, especially if your job is running you rag the whole time. We're allowed to demand better. Can confirm. Confirming this at work while on Reddit. Me reading your comment on the toilet at work. Loud noise. Obnoxiously loud for-on-purpose cars and pickup trucks. Those cars that sound like they are going 0 to 60, when in reality they're going 0 to 6. Those effing loud as trucks. I love to sit on my porch, but these darn rednecks have to floor it down a 35-mile-per-hour road, and it actually is starting to hurt my ears. And if I have people over, we just have to stop our conversation for 30 seconds while this loud A truck goes by. Same. I bought some mute earplugs so I can eat my lunch in peace. Also, people talking on phones in public and people watching videos without headphones. In the bathroom stall. At work, almost every time I go to the bathroom, someone is in the next stall doing their business and chatting away on speaker. Gross. Everything needing an app. Why can't I just use this perfectly fine browser? Want to save $1 on a combo meal? Download the app. How about I just go someplace else? Save $1 on a combo meal knowing McDonald's will sell your information and you'll have a data breach with somebody from Indonesia trying to access your Steam account. I'll pass. Yes, it's amazing. I took my grandson's car into the dealer. Used my name. It's amazing how many calls and emails I got about buying warranties or insurance or trading in. The worst part is when the app is very blatantly just a wrapper around a website that literally does nothing that would require it to have said app. I was at a restaurant a while back and they took my name and phone number for the wait list. I get a text to go to a website to check my place in line. I went to the website and it said to download the app for the best mobile experience and to see my place in line. There was no other option. When I downloaded the app, it wanted me to create an account. That's when I backed out and went back to the website and opened it in desktop mode and it told me my place in line without having to create an account. I left a 1-star review for the app because of that, and the developer doubled down by replying that they feel the app is the best experience for mobile users and funnel them to that. But no, why don't you let the user decide what experience is best for them? I don't want your god-darn app taking up space on my phone. Trying to be cool and get attention, especially with people whom I am not close to. Now I just wish to be peaceful. This one for sure. I'm not cool, never have been, never will be, so let me be lame in peace. I think the best realization is that it's only people who are being themselves that are cool. If you are trying to be cool, then you're lame. If you're lame and just embrace it, then you're cool. Agreed. The people I find the coolest are the people who are genuine, kind, authentic, and welcoming. There are way less people like this than you would think, hope, but they are top-notch people when you find them. Could not agree more. I kinda cringe when I'm looking back to my teenage years trying to be the coolest guy in the room. If you can look back and cringe at your younger self, that's usually a good indicator of growth. People. In my 20s I thought the old guy living alone in his cabin in the woods on the outskirts of town was a weirdo. Now at 48 I think he might be a genius. I'm 31 and currently live alone in a cabin in the woods on the outskirts of my city's suburbs. I would highly recommend. I too live alone in the bush, it's wonderful. Always being tired and getting up in the morning. I really took the amount of sleep I got when I was younger for granted. 6 years ago I made the commitment to myself that no matter what was going on in my world, I would allot myself a full 8 hours a night for sleeping. It took me over a year to finally get it to work, and now I get 78 hours every night. I'm much happier, and I'd like to believe healthier, for doing so. I've been trying to do this, but my body needs somewhere between 8 and 10 hours, and cannot be awoken by any external factors. When it needs 8 versus 10 is random. Whether I'm able to wake up at 8 a.m. or noon is random. Anytime I force myself on a specific sleep schedule I feel like absolute effing sh. I'm one of those too. 7 hours isn't even close to enough. I need a solid 9. Every day I wake up with an alarm. It's like starting the day with the flu. It for sure has something to do with what cycle you're woken up in. But I don't know enough about the issue to say any more than that. When I was younger, like 17, I worked at a fast food restaurant and would get off around midnight or 1 a.m. My dad would always get mad at me for sleeping until like 11 a.m. and I didn't understand why he was so upset. And I thought I was wrong for sleeping in so late. Now that I'm older, I realized that I was sleeping so late because I wouldn't get to sleep until like 2 or 3 a.m. and sleeping for 8 hours would make it 10 or 11 a.m. Hangovers. I find the best thing about hangovers is, there is no one else to blame. My GF, 31, was at a party last weekend while I was away and proudly called me to tell me that she didn't even have that bad of a headache the next day. What she didn't account for was how her sleep schedule got derailed from just one night of partying and she was very tired basically half of the following week. Didn't even stay up that late Friday. Fell asleep on my couch at 11 after meeting some friends. Woke up in a cold sweat at 6. Broken sleep until 8 when I had to feed the cat and dog. My whole long weekend. Shot. Not even that hungover, just tired. So tired. Plus I get terrible hangover anxiety and depression which has only gotten worse as I get older. I only drink once in a blue moon now, but when I do go out I'm pretty much spent for 4 or so days. For sure, in my mid-20s they lasted part of the day. By my late 20s it was the whole day. My 30s brought the 2-day hangover. I'm terrified to see what 40 brings. I might just stop drinking completely. My stepdad always says that past 40 it's no longer a hangover. It's a hang on. It's going to hang on. It's not over yet. I'm 62. Working has lost its color. I'm 35 and I'm so burned out I don't know if I'll be able to work again. I'm starting to feel that given the choice between working literally anywhere, doing literally anything, and just straight up dying, I'm not totally sure which one I'd pick. Edit, to everybody replying that they're in the same boat, I'm so sorry and I love you all. Work is such a drag. It is so mentally taxing and draining. Personally I know I need to find a completely new career, but there's so much work involved in a transition. Also, there's no guarantee I'll get hired. Only guarantee is that I'll have to put on so much work to try. I've been burnt out for years, but like you, I keep on keeping on. Hang in there, buddy. I just switched to a new job with a fairly major pay cut. Don't know how we'll make it work financially, but at least I'm looking forward to going into work every day. I'm 35 but I've never had a time in my life where I liked work. It was always an obligation. A place I had to be at. I assumed this was the norm. I'm pretty sure it is the norm. Work. At this point I'd rather not do it lol. I honestly don't mind working. I like money and working facilitates that. It's work culture that grinds me to dust. Can I just show up, be polite, get paid and not have to be dragged into mandatory fun, overly intrusive icebreakers at meetings and forced interactions with people I really don't like? Perfectly willing to accept that all of this is a me problem, but way too many people substitute work for having a functioning social life. When every company is obsessed with their mission and values. Bruh, your mission is to make money. So is mine. Don't jerk me off about how dedicated you are to excellence and dislike for other bullsh. I worked for a startup junk removal company a few years back. Their mission statement was something like, providing top quality junk removal services with honesty and transparency. It was drilled into us, and when I came into work one day, the boss had printed it out and put it on everyone's desk and told us we had to keep it posted somewhere we could always see it. This company and its leaders were anything but honest or transparent. They constantly lied to the contractors doing the pickups. And most of the contractors would sell the items they picked up, but the company marketed themselves as green because everything picked up gets recycled. I worked customer service when I first started there and was often told to flat out lie to customers at least once a day. There's a lot more, but you get the idea. One day I was called into my manager's office with her manager present, who was also her boyfriend, and was interrogated about how I felt about the company. I refused to answer most of her questions and said it was because I knew that anything I said would be used against me. Later that day I was called in again and told if I didn't answer the questions I would be fired immediately. So, I told them how I felt that we weren't living up to our mission, gave specific examples and suggestions for improvement, and explained that I didn't dislike the company but wanted to see us do better. The next day, I got called into the conference room with my manager's manager and the CEO and was told that they had spoken at length and decided that they no longer had need for my position and that they would pay me a week's severance, but only if I signed this document basically agreeing to never say anything negative about the company. Traveling, but not seeing the sights or any of that. I mean the actual transition from one location to another. I did a few trips in my 20s where I'd be finding all different ways to save money and go to as many places as possible: overnight buses, sleepless nights, budget airlines, etc. Last trip was 4 years ago at 29 and haven't traveled because of the pandemic. Recently did my first trip since then, and all the transition stuff between countries really got me tired. Early rides to airports, immigration, customs, security, waiting at the gate, budget airlines that charge for everything, waiting for the plane door to open so I can finally get off. Next time I'm just doing one country and flying an airline that will at least give me water. I'm 36 and planning a 10-day trip, and was like, you know what, Europe has been there for a long time. It's probably going to be there the rest of my life. I don't need to pack the entire continent into 10 days. I'm going to Portugal. That's it. To quote Charles Bukowski, there's time. And if not, that's all right too. I've always thought it was absurd to come back from a vacation more tired and exhausted than when you left. Just go and see one place and take it easy. Lazily stroll around. Give yourself time to take in the sights you do get to see, and just give yourself time to decompress from the already busy day to day. Have a great vacay BTW.